okay, so I get this question a lot, and I want to see if I can try to answer it in a video that maybe, hopefully, will not be like an hour long. And this is essentially going to be an off-the-cuff video, not like my typical stuff that I do. And that question that I get is, why do you collect movies? And what got you into collecting movies and loving movies so much? It's I guess it's a story that really, honestly, it began when I was like 4 years old. I mean, essentially, I remember always loving movies. My family would always go to the movies. One of the earliest movies that I remember going to was the second Rambo movie. I believe it was Rambo First Blood. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember watching that movie, but I was obviously like falling asleep. You know, I was a kid, and not being super interested. But I remember just the spectacle of everything, explosions and gunfire and things like that. And ever since then, I loved movies. There was something about movies themselves that were just so enthralling to me. Something that could take me away from whatever was going on, and just my imagination just could run wild, and I can pretend that I was there and doing this and that, and side by side with Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger or Chuck Norris. I mean, it really was like a big thing for me when I was a kid. TV was essentially my babysitter, I guess you could say, which it sounds horrible when I say it like that, but I loved it. Everything about TV, everything about movies, were just so just so grandiose to me, and that was the one thing that just stuck. I remember watching Aliens for the first time, and how crazy I thought it was, and it didn't. The weird thing is that it didn't even creep me out. It was more like, wow, okay, how did they do this? How did they make this? That was my mentality. I remember watching The Fly for the first time, the Jeff Goldblum Fly movie, and as gross as it was, and gory as it was, shout out to David Cronenberg, I thought it was just amazing on what they could do and how you can create this thing. I was told very young that these things are just, it's fake. It's things that people create. So I had that idea in my mind ever since. And I've kind of more or less passed that along to my son. And he gets it now. He's like, wow, this is kind of cool, movie magic kind of stuff. Shout out to Movie Magic on the Discovery Channel. I don't know if you guys know. But anyway. But yeah, so as I got a little older, I lived in southern Texas, Brownsville to be specific, and when I was about 6 or 7, we moved away, and we moved where I currently am in Houston, Texas, and we would always go back and visit friends and family over there, and my mom had a friend that we would go, visit and spend time with, during the summer, and we'd go stay at their place. And they had a neighbor. This neighbor would always, be barbecuing and just, music blaring and all sorts of stuff. Really, really cool. So one of these days, my mom's friend's sons, she had 2 sons, we went, and they were having some sort of little get together over there. We would always kind of mingle together, between houses and families and things like that. Went over there, and I noticed that they had this big, I guess you could call it a big old, furniture chest kind of thing. And there was all these VHS tapes in there. And I had asked, I was like, whoa, hold on. These are all movies? They're like, yeah, we had this big movie collection. And it was just literally, it was a couple that were there. And found out that the guy there was this big collector of things. He had this big old train set in the house as well. Anyway, but it was the movies that got my attention. I was like, wow, these are a lot of movies. And a lot of them were again, like all VHS. There was some Betamax there and stuff like that. Things that I had never seen before. And so he was like, yeah, yeah, you can come, you guys, can come by and watch movies anytime you want, And they had like this big screen. Back in the day, big screen TVs were a big deal. And they were very pricey. So he's like, yeah, you come by and watch them anytime, Me and my wife are, we always kind of like are out and about and working and stuff like that. You guys can watch our house, It was us three. And we'd go there and we'd watch movies all day at their house. And it was a weird time because they trusted us enough to just hang out there and just watch movies. Yeah, so, and it was just kind of cool. I was, I guess, opened up to a lot of movies that I had never seen before. Like a lot of comedies, a lot of dramas, a lot of horror movies. And so many things that I was just like, wow, this is what I want one day. Like, this is what I want. I want just this library of movies that I can just pick and choose from whenever I want and show people. Like, and that, I guess that was my biggest thing also. I wanted to share it with a lot of people. So if people came over, I was already putting this out there in my head as a young kid that, like, if people came over, I want to show them some really cool movies. I want to share my knowledge of movies with this person. And that was my thing. And I binged watched so many movies there. It was unbelievable during that summer. I was I want to say roughly about 10 or 11 years old. Or something like that. And it was kind of nuts. Like, I just gained so much movie knowledge at that point that it was insane. And then the summer was over. The summer was over and we had to go back to Houston. And I was heartbroken because I was like, oh man, like, I'm going to miss just being able to watch all these movies, and I had literally a library of movies available to me all summer, which was pretty cool to be perfectly honest. And literally the day that I was leaving, the neighbor and his wife came up to me and my mom and said, we really appreciate you coming and watching our house while we were gone and just kind of taking care of things, which we were just literally sitting around. We weren't really taking care of anything. And they said, just to kind of show a gesture, a good gesture to you guys, we want to give you this. And it was a huge box. It was like a box about this big old cardboard box. And I opened it up, and it was a bunch of VHS tapes. It was a bunch of movies. And they had, like, they call it dubbing, I don't know if you guys know what that is. Literally, you would record, connect two VCRs together and record movies, on one tape. Like, a copy of a movie, essentially. And we had, like, these extended play VHSs that were, like, 6 to 8 hours long sometimes. So, literally, the box was full of movies. And each movie had 3 movies on them in itself. So there was like at least about 100 and something movies that I had that this person saw. That I guess that was the biggest thing that kind of hit me. Even I knew it when I was younger that this person saw how, like, wide-eyed I was about film and movies and watching movies and all this other stuff, that they went out of their way to, well, I don't know when, make copies of these movies that they had for me to enjoy, back here at home. And that was, like, really, really a big thing for me. And that was the start of me, wanting to collect movies. So I was like, oh man, like, I came back, all of my friends, like, I was just like, y'all, you guys need to come over. And I was just showing them movie after movie after movie after movie after movie. And it was just crazy. Like, Beastmaster, I Come in Peace, all the Back to the Futures, Indiana Jones, like crazy Pumpkinhead 1 and 2. I mean, it was just like one of those that I had almost every, like, you name it, you could think of it, you name it, I pretty much had it at that point. And then after a while, I got a little older, and I kind of fell off of. I always loved watching movies and music videos and stuff like that. But as I got older, you know, obviously you're a kid, you can't afford these things yourself. I got older, got a job, and I bought my first DVD player. And that's when DVD players had just come out, and my first DVD player cost me about, I think it was like almost $165, something like that. So around that price, 150, 175, something like that. And I bought my first 2 DVDs, which were Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and Joyride. And those were my first 2. And I had said to myself right then and there at that moment, this is it. This is your chance. You've always wanted a movie, like a movie library, a catalog of movies. This is it. Do it. Start buying movies, the movies that you love, movies that maybe people don't know of, that people wouldn't normally think of, and even movies that just seemed interesting. And that's always been my thing. I've always watched movies and tried to experience movies that, for one, I love. 2, are favorites that maybe I can recommend to somebody else. And 3, movies that I have never seen before and that I'm going to give a chance because I love experiencing movies. That's my biggest thing, is that I want to share the knowledge. If I see a cool, interesting movie, I want to tell you about it. I want you to go out and seek it yourself, not just because, say, the cover art looks bad and you're gonna be like, oh well, I don't want to see it then. No, I mean, cover art aside, I've seen some bad movies, trust me. but I watch them nonetheless, just because it's I don't know, man. I think it's just the knowledge aspect of it. I try to soak up things like a sponge. And I love sharing the knowledge of movies, good or bad. Again, normally I try to give every movie the benefit of the doubt, and I've said it before on this channel. And this is honestly, this is why this channel exists. This is why I started YouTube, because everybody got sick of me talking about movies all the time, essentially. But it's not, not in a negative way. It was more like, you love talking about movies so much, share it with everybody. And then that's what made me remember what and why I wanted to start collecting movies in the first place. I wanted to share these things with everyone, and share experiences and things and talk about things. And I know I haven't been doing a great job at that lately, but I'm gonna get better about it, I promise. But yeah, so I mean, that's essentially the full story of how and when I started collecting and wanting to collect movies. That's essentially my origin story. I guess you could say everybody has an origin story. That's mine. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Maybe I can, if there's things I missed or anything like that, I can elaborate on a little bit more at a later time. But thank you guys so much for taking the time out and watching this video, even if you watched it partially through. I do appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you guys have not already. Hit that thumbs up button as well if you can, because it does do me a solid. And with all that being said, we'll catch you next time.